Hey everyone, welcome to today's video and happy new year. I'm so excited for 2026. I feel like 2025 was such a hard year for a lot of people, including myself. I feel like the new year just symbolizes a good fresh start, reset, do-over, whatever you would like. But with that being said, I did want to film a video talking about my favorite reads from 2025. And listen, if I'm being honest, there aren't that many because I don't feel like I had a great reading year in 2025. Only because, and not even in the sense of like, oh, I didn't read as many books as I would like. That's not even the case. I would much rather have quality over quantity, and I just feel like I didn't fall in love with as many books in last year than I have in the past. But nonetheless, I was able to find some great gems, and I'm really excited to share them with you guys today. I'm not going in any specific order other than what I wrote down on my laptop, and we'll just go down that list. I'm not going like chronological order in the year. The first series I have on my list is the From Blood and Ash series. I can't talk about every single book in the series, but basically this series is following Penelope, who is the maiden of this fantasy kingdom, and she has a lot of rules to abide by, and she likes to find ways to kind of rebel. And in one of those ways, she like sneaks out one night and she meets this guy, and he ends up being her new guard. While they're spending time together, she's also learning new information about the kingdom and the truth about what's going on in the kingdom and in the world. And I absolutely ate the series up. I feel like I binged it so much to the point where I am not on the last, I'm on the second to last book of the series, and I am so burnt out from binging the first couple of books that I need to take a break from the series as a whole. But I literally fell in love with the series. It was so phenomenal. The writing was amazing, and the plot twists are shocking. Like, oh my god. And it's such high stakes, but it's so fun. And the best way I can kind of describe it is like Game of Thrones meets Twilight meets like Teen Wolf, if that makes any sense. And while we are on the fantasy train, I'm gonna go ahead and put it in here. Here, Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and Onyx Storm. I ate these books up. I'm so excited for book 4. If you have been living under a rock and you don't know this series, you need to go check it out right now. This chef's kiss. Xaden and Violet are literally so cute, and the fact that you are following Violet and her journey of becoming a dragon rider, and it pulls at every single string in all the best ways. Like, it pulls at the heartstrings, the mind strings. Like, it is just so much information to take in, and I feel like if you go back and you reread it multiple times, every single time you reread it, you will have a different takeaway from it. The next book on my list is Promise Me Sunshine by Kara Stone. First of all, I love Kara Stone's writing. I feel like I have read maybe 3 or 4 of her books, and every single one I have rated so highly. She really knows how to write a book that packs a punch. And just like in this book, where our FMC Lenny is dealing with the loss and the grief of her best friend Lou, who died of cancer. She is just struggling, guys. She is on the hot mess express, okay? And she ends up taking a bunch of odd jobs, and one of these jobs ends up being like a babysitting gig. While she's babysitting this kid, she meets Miles, who is the kid's uncle, and he has also dealt with a lot of loss and grief in his life, and so he kind of recognizes that in her, and he decides to kind of take her under his wing and help her through her grief. And honestly, this book was just so beautiful, and it tugged at the heartstrings. I remember one specific part that I completely was like sobbing to the point where I had to put the book down and take a break. So beautiful. if you are really looking for a deep emotional book, I definitely heavily recommend this book. And while we are on the topic of grief, I'm going to be talking about Passion Project. This book was so great. It's so funny. It deals with grief in kind of a lighthearted way, if that makes any sense. We are following Bennett, who moves to New York City, and I'm pretty sure she moves to New York City in spirit of her late boyfriend, and all of her friends are telling her that she needs to get out and start dating again, and she ends up ghosting this guy named Henry, and a couple of days later she ends up having to run into him, and he is like, you know what, we don't have to date, but let me help you find what your passion is. And they call it their passion project, i.e. the book. I love Henry. He was just so attentive and really went at Bennett's pace on what she wanted, what she thought she could handle, and I just loved this book. And also this cover was amazing. You guys are about to die. Give me a second. Wow. You might have to change. The charger does in fact reach, so we don't have to move. Next, I'm going to talk about primetime romance. This book is magic realism all the way, and this book gave me nostalgia so freaking bad. The writer in here takes a lot of inspiration from early 2000s rom-coms slash TV soaps, and the FMC in this book, I can't remember her name. I think her name is Bryn. Yeah, Bryn. Bryn is going on to her 30th birthday, and instead of going out with her friends, she's newly divorced, so she just decides that she wants to stay in and watch her comfort show with her roommate. And she wakes up the next morning and she is physically in her comfort show. Her roommate is also stuck in the show with her. This was a fun read, and it reminded me so much of Dawson's Creek while I was reading it. And then after I finished, the author put in her author's note that she did take a lot of inspiration from Dawson's Creek, and I literally was so obsessed with that show growing up that after reading this book, I immediately had to go and rewatch it. I have the physical book, I just don't want to go get it, and it's going to be Twilight. Like any other girl growing up, I was obsessed with the Twilight series. I never read the books, I only watched the movies growing up, and I was definitely and still am Team Edward. This year I decided that I wanted to read the series and see how the books compared to the movies. I have to say, I'm honestly genuinely surprised at how close the storylines were from the book and the movie. Like, it was pretty spot on, I'm not gonna lie. My only downfall with Twilight is the fact of, like, there were like multiple times when Bella's like, oh, I'm cooking blah 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 blah, and in order to this I have to chop that and then do that and do that. Like, she gave us literally every single step of the way. I'm like, I don't even know that. Like, I just need to know that you're sauteing something in a pan. That's all I need to know, okay? Moving on, we have Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I just have to say that I am an Abby Jimenez stan. I would literally read her grocery list. That's how much I love her. She is an auto-buy author for me. No matter what she writes, I will read it, and I'm pretty sure I have made it a pretty good chunk through her backlist. I don't know, I feel like she just has the perfect formula for a romance book, if I'm being honest. She has a way of writing that makes every single one of her books feel lighthearted but deep at the same time, and they're rom-com-y and witty, but they're also like emotional, and you really can like connect to the characters. And she did the same thing with this book. We have Justin, who thinks he is cursed because every girl he dates, they break up and then they move on to find their soulmates, and he's like, I'm destined to be single forever. And then one night, Emma happens to see this, and she actually slides into his DM, and she's like, hey, I also have this problem. Like, every guy that I date, we break up and they go on to meet their soulmate and get married and blah 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 blah. And so they come up with a plan to date each other for the summer, and then after the summer they will break up and they both will hopefully break their curse and go find their soulmates. I really do love this book, and I feel like Abby Jimenez, everybody just needs to read her books. I have Daydream by Hannah Grace. This is the third book in the Maple Hills series, and it is Henry's book. I freaking love Henry. He is so sweet, so down to earth, and his dynamic with Hallie is so amazing. And I feel like I could have related a lot to Hallie because she is also a people pleaser, and she is also a bookish girly, and she's also a Swiftie, so right up my alley. This is the classic sports romance, hockey romance, tutor/tutory college romance book that it's just great. And Hannah Grace knows how to write a rom-com with the spice. If you love spice, you will love this book 100%. The next book I have is Summer in the City by Alex Astor. This author is really popular for her Light Lark series, which is a fantasy series. I believe this was her first romance book. This book, absolutely cute. There is like a map in here and everything. Like, obsessed. The fact that this cover and this like layout of the book is adorable had me hooked. But even the story inside was amazing. If I'm being honest, the FMC in this book is dealing with writer's block, and so the MMC takes it upon himself to kind of take her on a whirlwind of adventures around New York City, and just to get her to fall in love with not only the city but himself in the process. So great book. It was so fast-paced, so fun. I was honestly pleasantly surprised with this book because I was a little nervous knowing that she writes mainly fantasy, but honestly I would love to see her write more romance books. The love haters. One thing I do love about Catherine Center is that instead of a third act breakup, she somehow does like a third act action scene, which is really, really refreshing and interesting to read and experience. And it's something new because you don't see a lot of people doing that. This book, you're following the FMC, who is a part of this documentary production company, and she finds out that her company is about to start laying people off, and so she accepts this assignment to go to Florida and to follow around this Coast Guard rescue swimmer in Key West and she gets there. He is not at all happy to see her, and she also failed to mention to her company that she doesn't know how to swim, which obviously if you're doing a documentary on a rescue swimmer, you need to know how to swim. And so Hutch learns this, and he is just already annoyed, doesn't want her there, but he teaches her how to swim nonetheless. It just gives her a hard time. The more you read, the more you understand why. Their story is really cute, and I did in fact love it. It was really fun. I honestly would reread this year in the summer. Like, I definitely would have reread this. Next, we're going to be talking about summer romance. Let me just read you my review on Goodreads, okay? Wow. Just wow. This book made me feel all the emotions. I loved being able to follow Allie on her journey of rediscovering who she is after her marriage ends, and how perfect her romance with Ethan was. I absolutely ate this book up. In this book, you are following Allie, and she is going through it. Her mother has died, so she's dealing with grief and loss with that, and her husband also left, and so she's dealing with that. She ends up agreeing to a summer fling with Ethan, and I'm pretty sure that they grew up together. You can tell from very early on how just obsessed he is with her and how patient and kind he is with her, and Ethan is just like book boyfriend to the freaking tens. Like, amazing perfection, everybody deserves an Ethan in their lives. Promise Me Sunshine by Abby Jimenez. This book is following a long distance relationship between Samantha and Xavier. Samantha moves to California to take care of family, and Xavier just opened up his own vet clinic, and so he has to stay put in, I can't remember what state it is, but he has to stay in that city. And so the two of them kind of take turns going back and forth to see each other. And honestly, this book is so cute, but it also just goes to show how hard long distance relationships are and how much work goes into them. And I honestly give props to anybody who is able to do a long distance relationship, because it does in fact take a toll on not only your mental health or your own like romantic relationship, but it's very hard to deal with. We have Rewind It Back by Liz Tomforty. It is a second chance romance between Rio and the FMC, who is Hallie. I'm pretty sure they were neighbors growing up, and then they were dating when they were teens, and then when they were 19 they broke up, and now she is back in Chicago and he needs his place renovated, and he accidentally hires her, and it kind of follows that journey. And I have to say, we were all waiting for it. We all love Rio. And next we have The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden. I have really loved her writing, and honestly I feel like if you are really looking into getting into mystery slash thriller, definitely check out her books. I feel like they're the perfect intro to mystery slash thriller books. This year I think I read 3 of her books, which I am completely obsessed with. The Boyfriend follows this girl in New York who is having a terrible time at dating, and she ends up meeting this doctor, and everything is going great. And then come to find out there are a string of murders happening around her, and all signs point to the fact that this is a serial unaliver. And the thing that all of these women have in common is that it tends to be a man is dating these women before he unalives them. And so things start getting really weird. She's trying to figure out where her neighbor went, and she is just sleuthing it up. And honestly, this was amazing. I thought for sure that the plot twist I thought was happening was going to happen, but it didn't. I was honestly completely shocked. Another Frida McFadden book ended up on this list, and that is Do Not Disturb. This book follows, first of all, I was hooked on this book simply because the FMC, the book starts out with the FMC unaliving her abusive husband. This book was so plot twisty. Oh my god, I was genuinely so surprised on how much I liked this book. I have Quinn, the FMC, who, like I said, unalives her husband, and she goes on the run. She ends up at this motel during a snowstorm. She gets snowed in there, and some weird sketchy stuff starts happening, and she ends up finding out that in one of the rooms there was this very weird big murder. She's already on edge because she's definitely on the run. She's trying to get out as soon as possible, but just some weird shit is happening. And honestly, the fact that like you not only get one plot twist, but you also get 2 plot twists in here is insane, and like I said, very interesting. We're going to be talking about Unsteady. We are following Reese and Sadie. Reese is a hockey player in college, and he went through this traumatic injury, and now he is struggling with anxiety and PTSD, and he is just having a very hard time getting back on the ice. And here comes Sadie, who is a literal firecracker, and she's also a figure skater, and she is also going through a lot with her family life and with her coach. And so when she sees Reese having an anxiety attack on the ice, she ends up helping him. Sadie and Reese make a deal that Sadie will help him through his anxiety and get him back on the ice and ready to play when school starts back up. They form this little unlikely duo, and I am here for it. If you love books with angst and deep emotional connections, this book is for you. So is my next book that I'm going to talk about, which is Unloved. It is literally by the same author, and it's a part of the same series. Actually, it's the second book to this series. Honestly, Unloved was probably my favorite read of 2025, hands down. I sobbed so much during Unloved, and I rated it 6 stars. It was amazing, and it was the only 6-star read I had of 2025. In this book, you are following Freddie and Ro. Freddie is like the school slut, and Ro is this academic achiever, and she is Sadie's best friend slash roommate, and she is also dealing with her toxic boyfriend. And Freddie has a lot of learning disadvantages, and he needs a tutor to be able to stay on the hockey team and to graduate on time so he can go play in the NHL. Ro ends up being his tutor, and they are just so amazing together. Once again, if you love angst and deep emotional connections and you want a book that will literally make you sob, this book is for you. 100%. And I tell you, I FaceTimed Austin and I literally had tears streaming down my eyes. I probably have a picture somewhere that I could pop up here for you. Oh my god, it was obsessed. I'm obsessed, and this series is amazing. I can't wait for the third one to come out next. Next we have If It Makes You Happy. This book is so cute and amazing and cozy. Obviously, if you can't tell by the title, it is perfect to read in the fall. I read it in the fall, and you just get the most wonderful rom-com, Gilmore Girls coded small town romance. It is set in the 90s, so you get a little bit of that nostalgia as well, and you are following Michelle, who ends up running her mom's bed and breakfast after she passes, and she is also runs into the small town golden boy Cliff, who is a single dad, and they are neighbors, and you're kind of following her journey with trying to figure out everything with the bed and breakfast, and also getting to know Cliff and his girls and everything about him. And if you are looking for the perfect cozy fall read, this is for you. And last but not least, we have Till Summer Do Us Part by Megan Quinn. This book is amazing. I got this one from Barnes & Noble. I was kind of sad because I wanted the pink version. However, the story is the same nonetheless. You are following Scotty, who is divorced, and she started a new job, and everyone at her job besides the CEO are male, and she perfectly describes them as Chads, which I just love for her. They're all married, they're all like wife-centered, and she ends up lying and saying that she is married, but her and her husband are on the outs. And so the CEO of this company recommends her to go to her husband, who is a relationship therapist, and she enlists the help of Wilder, who is her best friend's brother, I believe, or cousin, and they have to pretend to be married, and they end up having to go to this retreat over the summer, and it just goes on from there. And I am absolutely obsessed with this book. It gives rom-com in all the best ways, and one thing I love about Megan Quinn is that not only does she have the plot, she has the characters, and she brings that spice. Amazing. This was a great read for the summer. Okay, I had to give my camera a little bit of a break because it was definitely overheating a little bit. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you liked today's video, hit that like button. Comment down below telling me what your favorite reads from 2025 were and what your 2026 hopefuls are. And if you want to see more from me in the future, hit that subscribe button. All those YouTube things you most likely already know how to do, and I'm just being annoying about it. And I will see you guys in the next one.